Hi there, I am Adam Kirbas, and this is my novel, Life Choices. Well, arrogance is dangerous. Dangerous in that sense that it does not make you see what is around you. You have a high opinion of you. You think yourself beyond all others. That you would be something special, something that is unmatched, unrivaled. The point is, if you have a special skill, if you have anything extraordinary, then arrogance is in a way or another acceptable. If you have wit, if you have special abilities for music, for whatever you have, then you can be rightly arrogant because you prove every time that you have this certain skill. This is extraordinary, and with special abilities, well, come special mindset. I mean, if you have never met your match, you will assume or think that you are above all others. If you live in a society which puts restraint on competition, if you live in a society where people follow their opinion that too much competition would be bad, the people who do not agree that social development as well as economical development is built on competition, and in order to boost development, you have to enable everyone and every member of a society to partake in this competition. Equality, equal access. This would be a society reigned by merits. However, if you live in a society where this competition is hampered, then people who are confined to a certain social ladder will eventually assume themselves as superior to all others. Why? Because there is no competition. They do not have to face anyone who could challenge them. If half of the population does not even have access to basic education, well, what sense does it make calling yourself a genius? You can call yourself only a genius if you succeed against a lot of competitors. This is like sports. You can only call yourself great if you have successfully beaten every challenger. This is the key. But now there is arrogance, which comes close to vanity. This is arrogance which was unchallenged. A perception, an assumption that one would be above all others. And this notion has never come to be challenged. And Frederick was one of these young fellas. In his school, all these pupils, they had never really faced challenges. They were pretty much, you would not consider them as, in a way, in accordance with Charles Darwin, that the best always comes ahead and can spread their genes to the next generation. No, privileges prevent that. There is no, in human society, there is no way that always the best is selected. No privileges of any sort drive a wedge in this notion. So when the pupils of that school faced with Frederick, whom everyone would assume is misplaced among them because he's poor, he's not one of them, he does not share the same social background, they looked at him in awe, like an alien, like all the members of Frederick's social community. They did not consider him as one of their own. And now, because Frederick was one of the few who got the chance to have access to great schools, to teachers who actually have a degree, who know what they are talking about, it became pretty much apparent, well, he does not have a challenger. The social system in the US helps a few, but leaves out all the others. And it is based a lot on privileges. This is the reason why capitalism in the US follows a wrong path. However, Frederick became more and more arrogant because he thought he's the only one. He rightfully thought that he is the smartest in class. This is true. And in addition to that, the teachers tried to raise awareness about poverty, about people who do not have the privilege to higher education, people who live in the hoods, who live in drug-infested areas. This was followed by good intentions indeed, and it helped many pupils who did not have a notion of poverty to understand what poverty actually is, what it means, what can you do with it, and what it leads to. And the result was horrifying. Horrifying in that sense that poverty became something people became scared of. It is scary, having no hope, having no future, living life from day to day. And those teachers in this private school, in their well-intention, even showed pictures about life as a poor person, life in a hood. Some of the pupils, especially the young boys, call it as cool. Yeah, there are some thugs who seem to be independent. These forts circled around boys who still had to ask for pocket money, and they saw, well, there is a thug and he earns his own money despite the fact that he's a hustler. drug hustler. But the overall perception of poverty was a negative one. You cannot do whatever you like. You cannot travel. And the worst thing for many youths was that you are faced with work. This is only a few young folks actually thought about them. That you have to work 9, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And some of those young folks started calculating. A day has 24 hours, and if I sleep 8, then work 10, this makes 18, then I have only 6 hours left. And this is what young folks thought as the worst thing in poverty, not having time. They did not think that poor people have lesser possibilities and opportunities. Because what do young folks know? They are still in school. They have not really faced hard life. They have not applied for a job. They have never been rejected. Well, they assumed poverty as a plight which robs you of spending your time freely. And for many girls, poverty became a symbol of incarceration, having to work, having to take care, not being able to enjoy life, to be chained on life circumstances. This became pretty much hideous. Despite the well-intention that the teachers tried to raise awareness of poverty and that his and their pupils should feel compassion for poor people. Yet those young folks started to reject poverty. And in a way they tried to justify why they are not poor. Because, if you are faced with inequality and if you are there on the other end, if you are the receivers of privileges, if you know that you are well off, well, no one will let him or herself to be accused of robbing others of their opportunities. They will not admit, my father who is a dentist, my mother who works at an art gallery actually robbed this job from another applicant who would have been better suited if he or she wouldn't have been poor. No one will give in to that notion. No one can, because this would mean that your life would be based on a lie. No matter what it is, everyone assumes that he or she deserves to be where he or she is. So these young folks, when confronted with poverty, did not talk about privileges. No, there may be some others who have privileges, those super wealthy, for sure. They have monies a lot, they live in huge villas, they have huge yachts. What do we have? No, we are just middle class, we are just upper middle class. My parents worked their ass off. we did not get any charity. We do not live off charity, and we do not leave anything to chance. No, we work for our life. We have worked for our success. And in return, these argumentations have always two sides. The other side of the coin in return, well, young folks started to think about poor people and the poverty of self-inflicted. It might seem that way, and partially it is true indeed. If you hear a lot of drug abuse, if you hear a lot of people who are addicted to any sorts of drugs, if you hear about parents selling off their children to get a shot, then it might occur to you, well, it is self-inflicted. These are weak people. These are people who do not care about their own lives and about their future. These are people who have given up. And this is the reason why they are there where they are, and why we are there where we are. So you have to justify your own social footing, and as well as those others, why there is a gap between them and you. And Frederick was in the center of all attention. Those young folks from the middle class looked at him in one hand with compassion, with understanding. Yeah, well, he made it. He could break out of his social impediment. He could break the social chain. But on the other hand, no girl really wanted to get out with him. You never know. You could get pregnant. He could knock up you. He could knock you up. Then you could be one of those women who have to sell their children. Women who are depressed, who do not see any use and sense in life. Or just from one day to another, abandon their children, leave them to their own fate. It was hideous. And these with images of the hoods about poor life standards, of poor hygiene, about few to no opportunities, to be stuck in one place, and the worst of all, to having to work 10 to 12 hours a day or even more just to make ends meet. This is not how young folks imagine life. This is not how those girls in Frederick's class imagined their future. And when they looked at Frederick, they looked at him like he would be a poor puppy, yes. And they would occasionally feed him, help him, but they would not take him home with them. This was too bizarre. One would lose too much. But Frederick did not see it. Frederick only perceived one thing. Firstly, that he is special, which he truly was. He was a genius. And the second thing was that people have pity on him. And this pity Frederick mistook for entitlement. He thought himself, I grew up poor. I had no one because there was no close connection to his mother. And since everyone is talking about a close parental love, it is in all the media, it is in all the movies, fathers and daughters, mothers and sons, they have some special connection. And Frederick, in a way, was left out of it. His mother had to work. He, again, does not know what really working is. Frederick has not a real notion having to work in a fast food diner 10, 12 hours, having to be on your feet 10, 12 hours, getting meager tips, and still struggling to make ends meet. Frederick was like his classmate, despite the fact that his classmates thought of Frederick that he wouldn't know the harsh reality of life. But this was not the case. Frederick, throughout his youth, pretty much was confined in a room. He would scarcely go out. He would look at the hood from his window, and the same perspective his classmates had. So he thought himself as entitled, because he thought that he's actually one of them. He thought, because I'm one of them, I should be at least compensated as such. Life betrayed me. Life took something away from me, and now they have to pay me back. Life owes me something. And this was a gross insult. So in this notion, Frederick conducted himself. He doesn't need to do anything. He's a genius. He thought himself as a genius. He was starting to get interested in the opposite sex. But somehow it really did not work out well. Women, the girls had compassion for him, but would keep their distance. And Frederick got a little bit annoyed. He thought about the female teachers who had so much compassion for him, so much love. But it was only for the show, as it seems. He did not get anything in return. Frederick was one of those many adolescents who do not really know how relationship works, who only assume, if we come together, if I talk with a girl, it will in a way work out. One of us will mention something, then things will lead to another. Well, they don't know how to talk to girls. They don't know how things can work out. And he was eager to be close to someone. If it was not the girls in the same age as him, he was interested in the female teachers. He wanted to have closeness, because all this pondering about being left behind in life, and that he was a soul to be pitied, made him crave for a woman or a girl who would understand him, who would care for him like one cares for a puppy, because this is what he deserved in his view. This would make up for all he lost, because he, like his mother, imagined that his father was probably rich, well off, and in some days Frederick even dreamed that his father was probably watching him somewhere. He's probably a high government official, someone who is, or even a secret FBI agent, whatever. He's wealthy, he's well off, and he is watching him. And the reason why he couldn't be with Frederick so far was because he's held back either by the government or he has a very important assignment. He's fighting for his country. He's protecting his country. But Frederick assumed he must be there. He must be watching because he deserved it. He was this wounded puppy everyone was talking about. And every of his classmates had parents, and they were eagerly talking about their parents, whether their parents busted them or their parents cut off their allowance, or whether one of the students quarreled with their parents. Frederick always heard these complaints and imagined how his father was. He never really saw his mother. Only in the afternoon when she would bring in food. He even occasionally thought that this cannot be his mother at all, because he heard one time a girl talking about her mother, that her mother would be her best friend and that she confides everything to her mother. And Frederick assumed this is how parents are supposed to be. They have to be with their children. They have to listen to their children, to their worries. Or in another occasion, one student talked about that he worked with his mother through some very difficult math tasks. And again, Frederick started pondering. His mother had never helped him by anything. He would even dress himself. He would of course not know that his mother, when after he goes to sleep, prepares his clothes, irons his school uniform, and puts it in a place where he can find him. He did not think about anything of that, but just about one thing, and this is that his mother is absent as well as his father. And he said to himself, well, this can't be. I deserve better. Look at the way how people are treating me. Not only how they are treating me, but I'm smart, I'm a genius. And I deserve something. I deserve something better. And this thought that his parents, that they would be somewhere different, somewhere close but invisible, this kept haunting him. He said to himself, no matter what I do, I am in a way protected, because he knew he was once invited to a birthday party of one of his classmates, and he saw their wealth. He saw everything they had, their home in a beautiful suburban area. It took Frederick from his home 3 hours by bus to get there. He perceived this suburban home as a different world from which he is part of. He saw this beautiful home. He saw the swimming pool. He saw the lawn. He saw all these homes. Children's who are joyous, who are running around outside. There are no fences. There are no people running around with guns, no hustlers, no thugs. Beautiful, clean streets, no stench. And for Frederick, it was like heaven. And he knew that his life, his hoods, would not have any future at all. He saw the contrast. You don't have to be smart to understand it. That this is a different world. That you live in a different universe. And this conclusion makes one scary. Envious, yes. You are envious. You still think that you deserve the same, and Frederick thought about it. He was sure that his parents, his true parents, would live somewhere in the neighborhood. And it was something odd about this invitation. It came out of nothing. Actually, the real reason why he was invited was that the teacher who had raised so much awareness about poor people convinced one of the birthday students to invite Frederick, to be friends with him, to be close to him. And this student reluctantly invited Frederick. But for Frederick, it was more. He thought of it as a will of his true, real parents. That his parents must be living somewhere near. And they wanted to see him. They wanted to eye him. They wanted to have a look. And he imagined and he tried to justify why his parents don't want to be around him, why his parents abandoned him, why he does not have the same access to certain luxury, to the life his classmates have. And it is understandable that no child will come to the conclusion that the reason why his parents abandoned him is because he is not a lovable child, because he is not someone they deemed worth caring for. And if someone does, this is indeed very concerning. And Frederick did actually made up a reason why his parents went with him. His father, this very important government official, this undercover agent, he had to be somewhere else. And he could not be with his son. Because all the villains, all these evil people who want to do society harm, they would immediately notice his family. They would immediately find out about Frederick and then hurt him or do with him whatever they want. Because Frederick knew some comics. He had watched all these Marvel comics, all these Batman and Spider-Man. He had some sort of a notion of evil villains who want to hurt the hero. And in Frederick's daydreams, his father was always the hero. Like in Batman, Thomas Wayne was the hero of Bruce Wayne. For Frederick, it was his unknown father. And during this birthday party of this classmate, he thought a great deal about his father, his parents. And this made him scary. Scary in that sense. What if his father, what if his true parents will actually never reveal themselves to him? What if he will never ever happen to meet them? What if he has to live in the hoods where in the one room apartment in this filthy building for the end of his life? And this made him scary. And the more he grew scary, the more the illusion that he would deserve better, and because he's special, his true parents have to be special as well, grew ever more. It became more and more vivid. And the notion that he is being robbed of a key experience in his life, that he does not deserve to go every day back to the hoods. And again, when he drove home from this suburban home, when he imagined, maybe I could live here as well. I could be here as well. I could go to my room here. I could just stay in this world forever, and I don't have to return home ever again. And during the bus ride home, he thought a great deal about it. About his future. About his parents. And what he is supposed to do. Because he assumed, this is an adolescent's thoughts. His parents are watching him. He was sure of it. His true parents are watching of it. And fear, again, grabbed him. What if he has to act in a certain way? What if he has to be in a certain way? Maybe they have been waiting all these years for him to act in a certain way so that they can reveal themselves. So Frederick has to be in a way. And he pondered, how should I behave? How should I act? What do they want from me? My true parents, they must be around me. They can't be willing that I go every day back to the hoods, and this is dangerous. Frederick thought about the thugs who occasionally asked him what he wants, because they thought he wanted to buy drugs. He thought about the people in the hoods who were running around with guns. He thought about the mornings of some women downstairs who work as prostitutes. And he said to himself, yeah, well, my parents can't be wanting me to go there and live there. They can't. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know how harsh life in the hoods is, how dangerous this is. That their boy, their beloved boy, for whom they care so much and from whom they want to prevent harm, that he's in danger. Maybe they don't know. Frederick was troubled. And in his trouble, hate grew. Hate towards others. Hate against those villains who prevent his parents to be with him. And who are they? Who are these villains? Who wants to bring down the government? For Frederick, criminals had one certain appearance, and he hated them. He hated the guts of them, because they are the reason his life was miserable. And he thought about all these years. He thought about his age. That all these years he experienced life in the hoods, whereas he could have been here. Where he wouldn't have been leaving in the middle of the night in a bus, driving to nowhere, driving to darkness. He could have been living here, actually, if it weren't for those villains, for those evil people who prevent his parents from coming home, being a family, being with their boy and taking care of him. And he grew hateful. Why can't they spare me? He asked himself, why me? Why did they have to ruin my life? Why me? Couldn't they get someone else? There are a lot of poor folks in the hood. Why not all the others? And again, he was inundated with the feeling of betrayal, that he was robbed of life, and that there is no way out. And he thought about a dangerous scenario, a shocking scenario. What if his father would be killed? What if his father, who is a secret FBI agent, who is this honest and decent man he saw in all those comics, what if he's been killed? What if his father, who supposed to be Bruce Wayne, who supposed to be Thomas Wayne, who supposed to be the father of Batman, what if he's being killed? And he never gets to know about it. And he then has to live this life for all eternity in the hoods, despite he deserving better. And he grew frustrated, even maddening. His hate against all these others who prevent him from being happy, who fraud his happiness, who prevent him and rob him from a life in a beautiful suburban neighborhood with a beautiful lawn and a swimming pool. These thoughts bothered him. They exhausted him.